Hi, you're listening to Book Chat with author Vivian E. Moore.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
Hello and welcome to Book Chat. I am your host, author Vivian E. Moore. Hope everybody had a great week, and I hope you're having an even better weekend wherever you are located in this great United States. All right, so I'm not going to hold you for too long today because where I am, it is absolutely beautiful outside, and I hope that you did get a chance to get out and enjoy the fall weather if it's not raining where you are. All right, so let's get straight to today's show. The title of today's show is Be Careful What You Say to Me. And the topic is criticism versus praise. You're right, if it sounds like we've discussed this topic before, but it's only a reminder to for you to understand the difference between criticism and praise. Writers are sensitive about their work. Reviewers are and can be very intentional, and that can either maximize sales or decrease sales based on the wording and score given by the reviewer. More than that, they allow the writer to engage with readers and improve their writing skills, and it helps build a brand. That's what we hope to do as writers anyway. But sometimes, based on those reviews, they can sort of kill your career, in just a few, sometimes uncarefully chosen words. Reviews are welcome. Or reviewers rather are welcome to share their perspectives, and authors depend on them. We do. And, it's an unspoken partnership that exists between the author and the reader. We want to keep that relationship open, and, but we want fairness in those reviews. But yet everyone on the planet has an opinion these days. And, some are fair, whereas others hold hidden agendas. Just putting it out there, but sometimes, everyone is not a writer's friend. Sometimes you can make enemies, and sometimes you do have unknown enemies. And this is sort of like a stage for them to give a performance, I'll say, of how they feel about you, but only they're using the pen to do it. Okay, so. It's something to think about. And I know that most reviewers, I've read so many reviews, and I try not to let reviews sway me in one way or the other when it comes to reading, a particular book. And I generally, I read a lot of well-known authors, but I generally, sort of lean toward those authors that I've never heard of before. Because, some of them bring the fire. Let me tell you, they have some great stories out there. And I'm like, why haven't these writers been discovered yet? And a lot of them is due to the reviews or lack thereof of reviews that they're not receiving and should be receiving. So, go out there and check out some of those lesser known authors and read their books. And not only read their books, score their books, to give them that attention that they deserve. Because, writing is, especially novels, it's not an easy thing. And I don't care what people say about writing is easy, because it's not. If you're writing from a template of something, maybe you're writing about a particular subject or something of that nature, something that, you have guidance for, that you can, you have notes, and you can go back and look at those notes and write from that. But creating something from nothing, short of God, it's not easy. Okay. So, you have to have a great plot. You have to have great characters. You have to have great story details, a great storyline, all of those things. It's like the perfect pot of chili. You got to have the right ingredients. You got to have the right spices and all of that to make it, to make it exceptional, to make it the best that you've ever had before. And so, a lot goes into creating and writing stories. And depending on the reviewer, you've seen either uplifting or scathing. Most of the time, they skim from something they like or didn't like about the story in general or the characters. Instead, they focus on that, and then they give failing grades based on personal ideas of how the story should have been written in their opinion. Mind you, a lot of the reviewers have never written anything short of a book report, in their lives, but still, they feel as though they're qualified, and most of them are, because, they have read so many books, and they've read so many different authors, and so they feel that they are qualified to give their opinion, and they are. In most cases, they are qualified, but those are the ones that you can point out as having, read many, many books. You can tell it in how they pen the review. It's very intelligent. There are no typographical errors or things of that nature. They know what they're talking about. And so, and then too, they're being impartial. They're not being biased in what they're writing. They're just giving you their honest opinion of what they thought about the story overall. And that's good, because that's what you're looking for as an author. That's what you want to see. You just don't want to see, something that has been written by a reviewer that says, this is the worst book I've ever read in my life. And then they give no other, material or explanation as to why. But, I have no problem with criticism. It's how we as artists gauge our work among the masses. And, we need that. And I can't stress that enough. We need those reviews. We live by those reviews. Our work depends on it, like a life preserver in the middle of the ocean. I mean, it's if you don't have the life preserver, then, you can drown right straight away. But at least with that life preserver, it gives you a little bit more time, until help comes. And that's how we feel about book reviews. They help us from one review to the next, because, if that review is written and well received, then, others will follow it, because that means that someone else has also read your book, and they're not just reading it. They're actually sharing those reviews, liking them, loving them, hating them, whatever, scoring them. But they're sharing them to make sure that the next person that comes behind them will not only see what they wrote about the book, but also, their review of the book. And that is so vital. Still, there are some failing reviews where the reviewers refuse to use constructive criticism, because opinions hold value. However, how you word them makes a difference. And I can't say that enough either. As writers, we expect negative remarks, because you can't please every reader. It comes with the territory. But, please, I can't say this enough, expect authors to write like every other author without realizing that they are unique and they have their own personal writing style. Okay. I'm a romance writer, and, Joanna Lindsey is one of my favorite romance authors, but, she tends to write about historical romance, but, lately she's also done some modern romances. But still, I love her, but I don't try to write like her, because we are, two separate people, and we see life from two different perspectives, So, of course, we may have some similarities, not saying that we do, but I'm just trying to make a point. But still, based on those similarities that we may share, do not critique my work based on that. Okay. Critique my work based on what you thought about the story. Not that, well, I'm a Joanna Lindsey fan and this is nothing like, well, it's not supposed to be. Okay. Or Terry McMillan. I'm not supposed to write like Terry McMillan because I'm not Terry McMillan. I'm not in her headspace when I'm writing. Although I've read many of her books, but still, she has her own personal writing style, and so does every other writer. Okay. Nevertheless, readers should remember that one size does not fit all when sharing their reviews. How and what readers say, it has weight. And, and it often can work like a double-edged sword. If applied correctly now, it can identify strengths and weaknesses. And that's the point of critiques. It's to point out your weaknesses and your strengths, but you're doing it in constructive tones, and not just being mean and hateful simply because you can be. To me, that just defeats the purpose of you have read the book, having read the book, and then, that was a waste of your time. You read the book and then this is what you do. So I'm like, it just don't make sense to me. All right. Help me understand, please. But what authors choose to write about, it is personal and sometimes it is heartfelt. They pour out their hearts and their souls through the characters that they create because they want to know your thoughts. All right. That's why they put so much into writing those books, because they're not writing those books for themselves, although they're putting their personal touch on it. But they're not writing the books for themselves. They're writing the books for the readers, for them to read the book and then to give an honest opinion of what they truly thought, what you loved or hated, but how well, they compose the story, or and the character creations, how well the author or the writers have composed the story and character creations. They want to know what you think because even though they may get a pass or fail on that particular book, if they get the right level of constructive criticism, then when they write the next book, they will gain from that. They will know their strengths and they will know their weaknesses based on what those reviews have said. And yes. I'm just going to tell you that as a writer, when I read reviews, yes, some I take to heart, but then some I don't. Some, not to say that that I don't value them, because I do. I most certainly do. But those that I take to heart are those that are just being mean for no reason, because, well, I don't know this author, so I don't like this author, and I don't want anyone else to read this book. That's not fair. Because you read it and didn't like it doesn't mean that someone else may not read it and like it. I've read books by well-known authors, and I'll just be honest. I wasn't feeling it, but because I wasn't feeling it, does not mean that the next person that comes behind me wouldn't feel that story. So based on that, when I write a review, I make sure that I give the the pluses and minuses of why I liked the story, why I didn't like the story. And I always say, but you may love it, even though, I wasn't feeling it or whatever, but, that's just my opinion. And that's the point. That was my opinion. And that opinion does not, it does not extend over to anyone else, because how I feel about it does not necessarily mean that someone else will feel the same way, so just think about that, and based on that, the writers don't expect readers to handle their feelings with kid skin gloves. Okay. But, all we want is honesty, when giving an opinion, with a level of professionalism. Okay. If you hated it, say so. If you loved it, even better, but don't say this story sucks, without explaining how you came to that conclusion, because that's not fair. All right. That's not fair to the writer, and that's not fair to the next person that may come along, stumble upon your book and read it. But let me tell you, before they read it, the first thing they do, because this is what I do, I go to the reviews, I look at them, but that does not sway me from reading the book. You know, if I read the synopsis of the book and I like it, I go ahead and read it, because, you know, the last person that read the book may not be one of those people, you know, who like stories that are in depth or very long. You know, maybe they like short stories and thought that they would, you know, broaden their horizons by reading something that had 400 pages, you know, as opposed to 200. You know, they may have said, you know, this story was too long. It took too long to get to the point or whatever, you know, but that was just them. That was their opinion. So the next person may not feel that way. And so that's why it's important, you know, in how you write a review. Very important. All right. So, you know, even bad writing is forgivable, which is why constructive criticism is vital. All right. So yes, speak your mind, as it is your right to do so, but do it in a way that encourages the writers to do better next time without discouragement, because discouragement is hard. We never want to discourage anyone from doing what they love. Okay. So remember that, because, you know, you may not be a writer, but you may be doing something else. And so if, you know, if someone is giving their opinion about, you know, what they think of what you do, then just remember that, you know, because what goes around comes around. All right. So, you know, no author expects praise when it's not due. Just let me tell you that right now. But they do expect honesty, because it helps the writers grow and it builds better reader-author relationships. All right. So please keep the reviews coming, but be careful with how and what you say when the author's success is based on words. All right, folks. So that is our show for today. But before I let you go, I want to make sure that I give you these URLs so you can stay in constant contact with Book Chat. Of course, you can listen to the show live every Saturday at 6 on Spreaker, and that is https://www.spreaker.com/user/author Vivian Moore. You can follow me across all social media, which includes Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Okay. And if you will, you can check out my website. That is at authorvivianmoore.com or authorehshepard.com. And please check out my blog, which is at https://vivianmoore.blogspot.com. All right. And you can listen to Book Chat anywhere podcasts are available, but I always try to help you out with just, you know, giving you a few heads up, so you don't have to search for it. You can just go directly to either one of these locations and type in Book Chat, author Vivian Moore, and it should come up. But anyway, the first one is Spreaker, Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Castbox, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, YouTube, SoundCloud, JioSaven, iTunes, Audible.com, Verbal, Luminary, and Amazon. So those are some of the places where you can listen to the show on a weekly basis. And I do hope that you will listen, and not only listen, but like and share, because that is important too. All right, so tomorrow's worship day. I hope you are planning on attending church somewhere, and taking your family with you, and inviting your friends and neighbors to come out and, and hear the word, because that is so important, especially in these days and times. And also, folks, sometimes we just let things go without saying what's on our hearts and minds. So on that note, be sure to tell those how you feel about them while you have the chance to do so. So I love you. I hope you love me back. Until the next time you hear my voice, God bless you and goodbye.
Loved what you've heard on this week's episode? Well, the answer is simple. It would mean the world to us if you could head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review and feedback. Spreading the word really is the best way to grow our podcast and achieve even greater things. Thank you.